This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to Your Mom is a Podcast. In this very special podcast, Your Mom, you know what? Your Mom's a Podcast.
Yeah, Your Mom's a Podcast.
Here we interview incredible people and their moms to be like, excuse me, how did you do it?
I'm Sandeep Parikh. You're
Milana Weintraub.
And we're both two LA-based comedians and actors, and we're also new parents, and we need help.
So we're going to talk to people who are incredible and inspiring and change the world, crack us up, all of the above.
And learn to be better parents, and also learn to have some compassion for our parents.
Yeah, who maybe did some things a little wonky or a little perfect, because look at us, we turned out to be perfect people.
So welcome to Your Mom is a Podcast. Milana, what's going through your world right now? What's happening in the Weintraub household?
It's a complicated time, actually. I'm leaving for a while to go film something, and I've never left my son for this long.
Oh boy.
I've never left him for more than I think like 4 or 5 days, and that has been really hard. And now
I'm going to film something. I know you can't give particulars, but like it's pretty fancy. What can you say about it?
I have a small part in a big astronaut movie, and
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I get to be a Russian astronaut, which is what I was born to play, and I get to finally do an accent that I've been making fun of my mother with for years,
right?
And put it to good use
professionally,
and make money off of it, right. Which is why else are we in this industry? No, and so all of that is very fun and very exciting, and then the trade-off is a few things. One is, how am I going to be? Am I going to be okay leaving my kid for that long being without him? Is he going to be okay? And then is my husband going to be okay solo parenting for that long?
Yeah. Are you prepping him? Like, are you like talking about it with him to kind of prepare him for this?
Know that it would help. He's 3 years old. And I think if I'm like,
young.
Hey, I'm going to be gone for a month.
He's like freaking out now.
I don't know what that means. Every day he's going to be like, are you leaving today? Are you leaving to? And I can tell him I'm going to go to work. I have to leave to work today, and I could go to the bathroom and come back, and he'll be like, "Are you done working?" There isn't really a concept of time. So I do. But maybe we could ask Dr. Joel Gator this today about
how to prep them.
How do we talk to kids about work-life balance and leaving and coming back home and the reuniting? And right now I'm trying to figure out if there's a world where they come out and visit me. And then I'm also shooting in London where it's the exact opposite time. So how do I deal with a jet lagged kid who's going to be he's going to be miserable. We're going to be miserable because he's miserable. And then we bring him back.
To visit you mean?
If he comes to visit me, he's going to be jet lagged there, and then he's going to be jet lagged when he comes back.
Yeah, you basically throw his sense of time in the washing machine, and it's like he comes out all dizzy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild. Yeah,
dizzy, and then also shaking our mental health. Like he will take all of our last nerves into his tiny little fists and throw them in the blender.
And then you're going to send them back, and then you're going to...
And then I'm going to be like, have fun at school.
Right.
And also, husband, have fun being alone with him while I'm off pretending I'm an astronaut.
Yeah. Professionally. It's a tough one. That's tough stuff.
It's tough stuff.
And you're going for a month?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit like our Liz Astroff episode where she talks a lot about being a working mom. And I think being a working parent, wanting to be really active in your kid's life, knowing that they don't want to be with anyone as much as they want to be with me and my husband. Mm-hmm. And then being like, well, we can't give you the thing that you want. and
Mhm.
the thing that I want half the time. I think I want to be with him about half as much as he wants to be with me, in honesty, because I have so many other things I need to do
Mhm.
and want to do. But it's a scam. There is no way to be a working
Yeah,
mom.
they want to be with us pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah.
My little dude is starting to get to the place where I think I can start to see the push away, where he'd maybe rather be alone sometimes for like 30 seconds.
How does that feel?
But it's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. He did this thing yesterday, which was crazy, where he, like, it was time to eat dinner and he was cleaning up his kitchen. He's got one of those little like tiny kitchens, next to
Yeah.
our big kitchen.
Yeah.
And so he was just like mimicking everything Mama was doing. She was making a salmon, she was making fish. And so he was making fish, and then she was like cleaning up. And so he was cleaning up like to prepare the meal and stuff like that, which was super cute. It was a great way to like parallel play and let my wife actually do the thing she needed to do. And so then I come downstairs from work and he was like so fixated on finishing his cleaning thing that he didn't want to go sit down. And we're like, okay, it's time for dinner. And then I had to do a podcast later. So I was like, we only have like 45 minutes with daddy. So let's and he was just like, no, I have to finish this. And he was parroting all the things that we say when we still have stuff to do.
Wow.
So he was just like, no, I need 5 more minutes. I just need 5 more minutes. And like,
Wow.
very, and we both like looked at each other like, oh, we created this situation essentially. And so he was like hyper fixated on cleaning, which is like all kind of on from my wife's side. And then he was like holding the barrier of like, I demand that I get this work done, which is kind of me. He was like hyper fixated. It was kind of a little freaky, honestly. And so we had to sort of like snap him out of his rhythm to
like his stress spiral.
His stress spiral, basically. Yeah. And then like once we did, he like broke down, started tantruming, freaking out, crying. And we're just like, we're here for you, buddy. Sorry that you're having a rough time. We just want to spend time with you and eat dinner. It was crazy.
It's like, it kind of brings me back to the theme of this podcast, which or like the hypothesis that we're constantly testing is, how much is it that we need to do that defines our kid, and how much is it that we need to be that helps raise our kid? Because you could say, I want you to be relaxed and I want us to have dinner together, and these are the morals of our family.
But then if I don't do that, if I don't exhibit that in my actions when it's, 5:30 and I'm supposed to come downstairs, but I have like one more email I need to write desperately. And I'm like, hold on, wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're right. If I just do that thing, then I'm not sort of being the change I want to see, kind of thing. Yeah, it's, I don't know. I don't know what percentage to give to it, but I feel, it feels like the ball's more in our court to do the work.
For sure.
Which sucks.
I know.
I have so much work to do.
It's such a mirror. It's such a mirror. And it's a thing you might have not noticed about yourself until the person that you care about most in the world showed it to you by becoming it in the most high stakes way.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And that was one of those moments yesterday where Hannah and I both looked at each other like, oh boy, we did this to ourselves.
And with that, let's get into this parenting podcast.
I wonder who could help us.
Maybe a professional doctor.
Maybe my own, or not my pediatrician, but my son's pediatrician can help us.
Listen, we know that you're not the tallest person in the world, but it is time for you to see a grown-up doctor, Cindy.
Is it? Are you sure? But they give me lollipops.
Hello and welcome again to Your Mom is a Podcast. Today we have Mr. Joel Gator Warsh.
Not Mr. Oh, no,
right.
No.
You're right. I'm so sorry. I've already allowed my dyslexia to get the best of me. This man is a doctor. He's a board certified pediatrician in Los Angeles, California, who specializes in parenting, wellness, and integrative medicine. He's from Toronto and completed degrees in kinesiology, psychology, epidemiology.
You're doing great so far.
Oh my God, I am such an immigrant. Community health before earning his medical degree at Thomas Jefferson Medical College. He completed his training at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles and has numerous published essays on pediatrics and youth health. I follow him on Instagram. He has many, many, many followers from all over the world. And also, he is Sandeep's son's doctor, which is very weird because we've known each other. We know of Dr. Gator from very different worlds. I know
so
about
you knew about him
because
before?
yes, because I'm a
I didn't know that.
crunchy mom, because I
Yeah.
am the person doing the research and trying to figure out, how much of the pharmaceutical industry is on our side and wants the best for us, and
All
how
of it, right? All of it.
all of it.
They're totally on our side. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That for-profit industry that has thousands of lobbyists is totally on our side.
100%.
And also the Chinese medicine of it all, or the psychology of it all, and how much to show up as a mom and how much to rely on the emergency room, So I have loved your content online, and we're so grateful to have you on. And then we also find out that you are the actual doctor to Sandeep's son.
It was pretty disturbing for me to find out that my pediatrician is a better influencer than me. As a comedian, I gotta say, Dr. Joel, that was disturbing. But yeah, you're kicking butt online. So why don't you start by just telling us, like, how did you get the Dr. Gator nickname? Where did that come from?
Well, first, I'm going to say thanks for having me on. And I think I have a little advantage because there isn't a lot of people talking about the stuff that I want to talk about, or that we are talking about. I mean, I wish there was a lot more discussion around health, but there isn't. And like you said about pharmaceuticals, it's like there's this huge lobby to kind of stop talking about this stuff and push against this stuff. And so I think that has really helped my, social media or whatever to grow, just because people are interested in this kind of content. And Dr. Gator, it's actually from my wife. Her last name is Integrative. So most people think it's a Florida thing, but it's actually a wife thing. I grew up in Toronto, so nothing against Florida, but it's a wife last name thing.
That's an amazing last name. Integrative?
Mm-hmm. And it's the real one. Yeah. Her dad
Where's that from?
Ukraine.
It's Ukrainian? Okay.
Yeah, Ukrainian. Her mom's from Russia. Her dad is from Ukraine. They met in America. Interesting, crazy name.
It sounds like a superhero that's incredibly smart and also an alligator.
Also from Florida. Yeah.
It may be.
Okay. And also you started a parenting masterclass platform called Raising Amazing, and which is raisingamazingplus.com. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how your journey of parenting has brought this all up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back really, I think, to around when I met my wife, which is in residency and training. And I was not crunchy. I mean, I don't know. I was not integrative minded at all. It just wasn't something that really crossed my mind. And going through training and seeing the chronic disease epidemic and just everything going on, and meeting my wife, who also was very holistic minded, a lot of things came together to really push me to start learning about integrative medicine and natural medicine. And then I opened up my own practice after doing it for a little while and just seeing how interested people were. And that's why I started doing the social media stuff, because I thought there might be some need or interest, and it has grown really quickly. That's why I wrote a book, because parents were asking me for more information. So that's been pretty cool and fun. And that just came out recently, Parenting at Your Child's Pace. And the online stuff is really just an extension of that, just discussions of parenting and wellness, pregnancy, all the topics that we can't always talk about or don't talk about as much, and really trying to give a balanced perspective on these things. And that's most of my content.
This is why we love having you as our doctor, honestly, is that we feel like, we feel so safe to ask sort of any question, right? Like instead of, when we have questions about whatever it is, vaccines or anything that's going on, you feel like there's a certain side of you that's like, well, I can't question this at all, so I shouldn't, because otherwise I'm looked at as like Jenny McCarthy crazy or something like that. You're just like, and you're really like, well, you just have some questions. And you're like, well, can we
like?
It's
not a joke, right? It's not a joke.
Yeah,
but it is a joke.
No,
it's funny, but it's not.
But it's totally not. I totally agree.
And so it's at least like with, and so this is why we're so drawn to you, was like, oh, he's an integrative pediatrician, which we didn't even know what that meant at the time, other than like, oh, okay, so there's some like Eastern stuff that we can like talk. And I grew up Hindu, and with like Ayurveda a lot in our household. So I was like, there's got to be something good about this stuff. Like, it'd be cool to have a doctor where I can have these conversations,
Mhm.
and be like, does this crazy pill that my dad takes, 5 times a day, is there anything to this? This Ayurvedic medicine or whatever, and like you actually have some answers, or at least have your take on it, and I feel comfortable bringing up the topics with you, and that alone has been a relief. Have you found that to be the case, like with your other patients and stuff like that? Like, are you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say yes. I mean, I don't have to do any advertising. I don't have to do anything. I mean, people find us because they're so frustrated with what's
Yeah.
going on, and a lot of it really is just around feeling shamed or feeling like they can't have a conversation, which is insane. Like, it's so crazy that people and medicine has moved to this place where it's like telling people what to do, and you can't have a conversation, and you feel like you're the crazy one if you just bring it up, or
Yeah.
Mhm.
even want to have a conversation about shots, like you mentioned. It's like, why should you not be able to? We don't have to agree on everything, but you should be able to ask questions about anything that you're doing and not feel like you can't. And,
Right.
and you
Mhm.
certainly shouldn't feel like the weird person because you want your kids to be healthy and you want to feed them healthy food, or you want to talk about healthy food, or you want to make sure you're getting exercise, or you don't want your kid to eat some sugary snack filled with chemicals and dyes and preservatives. But people
Mhm.
do feel like they're the only ones, and it's not true. I mean, people are starting to recognize this, and maybe
Yep.
that's a good part of social media, is that people are finding each other a little bit, but it's not common, obviously. I mean, kids are sicker than ever, and adults are sicker than ever, and there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Nothing made me crunchier, or I would say like more examining of the healthcare system than my own pregnancy and delivery,
Mhm.
where I noticed all of the ways that I was entering a system that was not designed or customized to my needs. It was really about efficiency for the system. And so, asking questions about like, does my newborn baby need this test? Or does my
Mhm.
newborn baby need this shot right now? When my son was born, they did a heel prick test on him, which I'm sure most parents who gave birth in a hospital know about this. But when your baby is, you know, somewhere between a few minutes to a day old, they take the baby into a separate room, prick their heel multiple times, and then drop blood from the heel onto a piece of paper, like a straight up Xeroxed piece of paper that has no technology on it, and continue to prick and prick and prick to get new blood as the blood dries up. And I could hear my kids screaming from the next room, watching this barbarian test happening that I don't actually think I ever even got the results for. And then was supposed to just be like, I guess I'm this feel every part of this feels wrong in my body. Why are you hurting my kid? How is this? Why can't you just take blood any other way? Why is this all of this needs to happen today? Why does it need to happen today? And that planted the seed, that amongst many other things in the
Mhm.
pregnancy, the drugs that are given to women in pregnancy, the food that's served at the hospital, like all of these things ignited the
You didn't like
why
the Dunkin'
question in
Donuts at the
me.
hospital? The Dunkin' Donuts in the same hospital? That
No,
wasn't.
I was too busy eating the rubber hamburger patty that was given to me postpartum.
Right.
Oh yeah. They,
So
they were mad at us for not eating their food, and we're like, no, we don't want. And, they keep like, are you sure you know it's no, 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 no. We're very sure we're not eating any of that.
are you sure you don't want this orange juice that's 3% juice from concentrate?
It's not.
Yeah, it was
It's-
it was so bizarre. And so with that ignited this curiosity in the medical industry and what serves me and what serves somebody else. And yeah, I did when there was like certain vaccines that needed to just be given early on and needed to happen within the first few months.
yeah.
But did they?
I
And
just will say this: it was so nice to have Dr. Joel, because we were like, "Are you going to do that?" Because you had a kid, right? Like right around when we
oh yes,
had our kid.
tell us about you.
Yeah. And so, well, I'll just say this, which was like, I was like, "Are you going to do are you doing this to your kid? That was like some of our measuring stick, because we trusted you to like kind of be able to balance. And you're like, yeah, we're gonna do this with our kids. So like, okay, but it was easier for us to help make the decision when we were kind of a little bit torn about that
And
stuff.
kind of, I mean, the stuff we're talking about right now, and all of this literally is like why I wrote that book, for ages 0 to 3, because there are so many questions like this, and I can't give you the answer because there is no answer. Everybody's different, and that's really the key. But we can be aware of the stuff that's going to come up, like the heel prick, like the shots, like the antibiotic ointment, like the things that are going to happen in the hospital. And you should be prepared and knowledgeable, because if you're not, and you're there, and the nurse comes in and says, "We're going to do this," it's kind of hard to do your research when you just gave birth.
Right.
Right.
Like figure out what you should do or what is okay. But you can think about these things beforehand and go in with a plan, because the reality is you are empowered to do basically whatever you want within reason. I mean, of course, there's some things that you want to discuss with practitioners about that could have to do with safety, but most things you have an option for. You don't have to do almost anything. And most people don't know that. They don't feel empowered to ask questions. They don't feel empowered to say no. And the system, like you said, is built for the system. It's built for the masses. It's built because it's easy. It's built because, that's what the studies have shown, potentially to be the best for studies, whatever they're done by pharmaceutical companies. But, let's say theoretically the studies are correct. That's what they're shown to be the best. And so that's what the system will do. And in the hospital, it's very much like, here's our policy. Here's what we do. We follow steps A, B, C, and D. We do that for everybody. And that's good to some degree, right? Because they don't want to make mistakes, but it won't necessarily work for you. And it certainly doesn't always make sense in your situation, because you might have a test that says you don't have disease A, so you don't need treatment B for that thing if you don't have it. Like antibiotic ointment for a child, you could have a C-section, or you don't have chlamydia or gonorrhea. So why are you putting antibiotics in your eye if you don't have that thing? Like, we have tests now. We have hepatitis B tests now. So why do you need to have that for every single kid? If you don't have hepatitis B, like, these are things that come from the past, which, if you have hepatitis B, you don't want to give it to your baby. I get that. There's nothing wrong with that. But most people know that they don't have it now. So why can't we reevaluate these things and have discussions and say, well, maybe this is not the right thing for me. Maybe I'll do it later. Maybe I won't do it. Whatever it is. But we should talk about the pros and the cons. And maybe the doctor will say, well, these are the reasons why I think you should do it. And maybe they'll convince you. Maybe it won't. But that's how everything else is done. You don't go into your heart surgery without having a discussion about, like, well, should we do this or should we not do it? What are the risks? What are the benefits? Then you decide whether you want to do it or not. Like that is the way everything else is.
Well, I think actually a lot of people, and when I'm thinking about those people, I'm thinking about like older people in my family, don't necessarily have those conversations even with their heart surgeon, because they don't feel empowered and they feel so uninformed. And they're like, well, I'm just going to trust the person with the degree. And I understand that too. So I actually think like I said, this was all ignited for me in my labor and birth, and now in my own healthcare, like in the way that I'm taking care of my own body, there is a more of a wholeness, like when we talk about integrated medicine, like actually integrating all the information so that I can make the best decision for me that does have a lot of questions. Luckily, I'm actually, as you were talking about the eye ointment, I am viscerally recalling my son's cry when they put the eye ointment into his eyes, and me thinking, is that necessary? Do we have to? It's too late. Like it was already too late, So tell us, do you have children? You do. You have
two.
At least one, two. Okay.
One 5 years old and one 6 months old.
Wow, a little one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. So you're busy. Thank you for taking the time out of your practice and your parenting to do this with us. We talked to your mom, and she's amazing. We asked her to tell us a little bit about her. How would you describe your mom?
Well, I think she's a really fun, amazing human being. She's very kind, and she's always thinking about everybody else, maybe to a fault. And I think that she's just always been there for us and tried to do everything for us, and not always for herself. And that's something we've always pushed her, especially more recently, to kind of think about herself a little bit too. But she's just really caring of everybody else.
Let's hear from Hetty Warsh herself.
I am a proud, blessed mom of 3 incredible kids. Joel obviously being the oldest and the first, I didn't have much of a childhood. From the age of 7, my dad had passed away. So I had to grow up pretty quickly. So that was one big thing that I guess stuck with me right through once I had my own kids and realizing that you don't get to be a kid for too long, So I really wanted to make sure that as they were growing up, they got to do as many kid things as possible. And so about our family, Joel is the oldest, and there's 3 years between Joel and his sister. And then there is 7 years between Joel and his younger brother. There were 4 years between Joel's younger brother.
So we get a sense of your your family growing up, but I love that your mom starts out by talking about protecting this sort of like sacred time, this childhood time, and this just brings me, because like now my kid is entering pre-K, and I feel like there's a lot of this is another pretty charged or hot topic about like how your kid gets schooled or what kind of environment you're going to thrust your kid into, because what now they're going to be spending a good chunk of time away from home and be around these other folks that are effectively taking care of them and also educating them. I'm wondering, how do you think about that with your 5-year-old? And in sort of like, have you carried forward this idea of wanting to protect their childhood, or are you thinking like, well, you should be a doctor, so start studying now?
I'm all about protecting childhood. I'm definitely not all for him being a doctor or a lawyer. If he wants to be, fine. But I feel like the world has changed so much, and I feel like you just have to find your own path and enjoy life. I'm not a huge pusher of school or anything like that. I mean, we probably will homeschool at least to start, but I'm not sure. I'm not in any rush to do it. I really feel like, yeah, I guess it's pretty similar. Like, you don't have that much of a childhood, and there really isn't a huge need to be in school early on. I mean, I feel like, some sort of structure is good in terms of playing and being active, but that's much more important than sitting down at a desk and reading. And that's shown in the research too. I mean, you look around the world,
Right,
at what kids are actually the most successful academically, and mostly it's in those Scandinavian countries where they don't even start school till like 7, and those kids do better in reading and math and everything. And that makes just common sense to me. Like, not plopping a kid in school away from their family early, it is not probably the ideal thing to do. I mean, I think it's reasonable if you have to, but even if you are in some sort of structured location, what are you really learning when you're like 4? You don't need to learn a lot. I mean, it's fine. You want to teach them a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing, but realistically, they need to be playing and having fun. And they're learning from socialization. They're learning from activity. And that to me is the most important learning. So yeah, I think we need to let them just be kids. And we're way too worried about the future, college and that kind of stuff and structure when our kids are 5, and really we don't even know what the world's going to look like, and there's some people that are not even choosing to go into higher education anymore because they're so successful in other ways. So the world's changed a lot, and doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to college or whatever, but I think that we shouldn't be focused on that when our kids are 5.
I agree that college is totally going to. I dropped out of high school, and my husband has his master's, so we definitely think about this differently. But I think with AI, with the amount that we can educate ourselves, there's free textbooks online, videos, lectures from the past 20 years are available online. There's so much information that's always growing. I'm not sure what higher education looks like, but I do think that there is a complicated, perhaps more complicated conversation around how do we offer childcare to parents that need to go to work, because single family earner homes or I should say single earner homes are no longer really possible in so many parts of the country, and probably I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world because I'm ignorant, but I do think that there's perhaps other ways that I think when we talk about systems, right? Medical systems, educational systems, family support, that we need to be providing community that maybe isn't a kid sitting in a classroom.
I personally feel like if someone can be home with your own kids, that's going to be the best option for your kids in those first couple of years. This is not always possible. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, it depends on the parents, right, and the
Right.
situation. But if you do want to stay home, if somebody wants to stay home with them, dad or mom or partner or whatever it is, that's the family situation. Then I think that's something we need to make available again. And I think that we've moved so far away from some of these traditional things. We know we're seeing a big problem in health, mental health, chronic disease. I mean, these things are skyrocketing like never before, and we're doing some things better. We're not dying when we're 40, we're dying later, right? So like we don't throw away all medicine or health, but there are a lot of things that we're not doing as well anymore. And so maybe there are some things we did before that were a little bit better for us. And that's where balance comes in. And I think we need to think about these things, talk about these things, and figure out something in the middle that works a little better for everybody, or certainly for your own situation, and not just following the trends, because the trends are not taking us to a great place.
We seem to do this thing as human beings where we like for centuries or millennia we'll like kind of do it a certain way, like homeschooling, like is like, or like apprenticing with your family was like a thing. Like that was like how we majorly sort of raised our kids. And then suddenly we're like, oh no, we have a better system in place, let's school this way, like this is like in the 50s or whatever. And we're, we gotta kind of create more, industrial revolution, we gotta create more factory workers, we gotta create people that, or that fit the system so that the economy can keep pumping. So let's sort of reframe and rejigger this, and then on top of that, anyone who wants to homeschool, let's vilify them. I don't know if it's that
Right.
intentional, but I feel like that's what ends up happening somehow, is that you get that those people who do homeschool, it's like there's this whole sort of
There's a
stereotype.
stigma.
There's a stigma around it, right? And we're not choosing to homeschool, but like I know so many of my friends that are,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, man, it's so. I view them as brave, but at the same time, they're like, yeah, but it's like kind of obvious. But from 0 to 7, from their point of view, to do these like homeschool collectives and stuff like that seems
Yeah.
really, really beneficial.
But you're right, because all of these things, there's so many things that are modern, and we're arrogant, and we forget it was different just 50 years ago or
Like
100 years
not
ago,
that
whatever
long
it
ago,
was.
right?
Like not that long ago. And like, you talked about starting off with like Ayurveda, right? And Ayurvedic medicine and Indian medicine. And like that's air quotes alternative, right? Like,
Right.
but this is what's been around forever. Modern medicine is alternative. Modern medicine is new, and it's not
Right.
that it's all bad, but it's the other things have been around forever. And there's obviously
Right.
something to that if they've been around for a long time. And maybe we can learn something from that, and in the way that they're doing things, or maybe we can look at other places in the world that are significantly healthier than we are, and not just assume that the way that we do it is the best. We're very clearly failing at health, especially long-term health. We're real good at emergencies, and we're real good at acute stuff, and we don't die again like when we're 40. So like not all of medicine is bad, but we're very clearly failing at all the rest of the stuff, and that's because we're so arrogant in the way that we do things. This modern medicine, but it's new. It's just been around for only a few years, and the world has changed, and the problems have changed. And going back to the beginning again, it's like we talk about pharma, talk about food. We're marketed to. They want to make money. They don't care about our health. Not really. They want to make more money, and we have fallen into this trap of marketing, and we've fallen so far away from what's obvious and basic and common sense, like with our food. And we're eating all
Yep.
this crap that we were never meant to eat. It's not real food. We're disgusted, confused by all these guidelines and this and that. And it's like, no, just eat real food, cook food. That's what you need to do.
Joel, I'm sure you get so much of this conversation coming back to privilege, right? And like the financial standings of families in this country. The top stressor for so many people is, how are we going to pay our bills?
Yeah.
Most people are in debt. Most people feel like they have to work in order to feed their kids, even the processed foods that they eat. And so what does that make you think about? Because for me, it kind of all goes back to like the responsibility of our country's leaders, and how do we put pressure on that to change family dynamics to be healthier for the longevity of our people and the health of our people. But how do you have that conversation?
Yeah, I think it's important to have it because it always comes up, and it's certainly something that has been pushed in the media. And I think it's reasonable to discuss it, but at the end of the day, every child and every family deserves to be able to have healthy food. Kids deserve to not be sick, and we have to figure out how to do that. I mean, that is all of our collective our need as a society is to figure this out for everybody. I mean, there's two different discussions when you talk about a lot of this stuff. It's the family, the personal decisions, and then the societal decisions. You have to do whatever you need to do within reason for whatever you can do. I mean, you can only afford so much. You can only do so much. If you need to work, you need to work. But you also need to prioritize health too. I mean, these things are all important and we have to be able to discuss it. And you can't have a discussion where you say we should be eating healthy food and then somebody says, well, but not everybody can afford that healthy food. Okay, well, that's a problem. It's not that we shouldn't have healthy food or you should not be able to talk about it because it's privilege. We should be able to say, okay, well, how do we make the food healthier so they can have access to it? Like that's just the wrong discussion. It's like you're blaming or shaming a healthcare professional for saying that you should have healthy food because not everybody can afford it or it's not available. Well, the problem is it's not affordable or not available. Not that you're talking about it. Like you shouldn't give somebody crappy food just because that's all that they can afford. We should figure out how to get better food for everybody. Like that's a doable thing. And if we decide to do that as humans, we can build more farms. We can provide more food. We used to do that. We could do it again. If we prioritized it. It's not easy. But
well, right now we're really busy just growing more corn because it's subsidized, and then we just put the corn in everything.
Right, but we could subsidize healthy food. We could subsidize moving towards healthier food. You could take those subsidies, not in one day because we need people to have food, and it's a long transition. But it
should be the top priority.
It should be the priority to build more farms, local things. Even if you get 10% of your food from something local, that's still so much better. It doesn't have to be all or none. Obviously, it's not the easiest thing to sustainably feed billions of people, but we can do it over the next 100 years. It's possible to transition if it's a priority.
Right, you can't fix it all necessarily in this generation or in this moment, but we can start having the conversation and affecting change. I love all that. So speaking of that and the things that we love about you, we asked your mom. Okay, so now we're going to kind of get into the format of our show a little bit because we can talk to you I could talk to you forever about all this stuff.
Totally.
But we asked your mom, what is a strong, good trait that Joel had as a child? What do you think she said?
Strong, good trait, memory. Probably she said that I used to have a very good photographic memory. Not as much anymore. Still there, but
used to have a photographic memory.
I mean, maybe I still do, but it's not the same as it used to be. I could remember things like amazingly. Oh, that's what she always said. We'll see what she said.
Okay. Yeah, let's see.
Joel was blessed with an incredible memory. And when it came to, let's say, learning to read, he didn't want to look at a book. He wanted to memorize everything.
Wow.
Well, there it is. So apparently you remember this enough to get the gold star. By the way, you get gold stars when you get the answers right. It means nothing, but it makes me happy. So you get a gold star for that. That's pretty wild. So so you had basically how early were you when you learned to read?
I don't know, but she always loves to tell the story of how I was on the potty. I don't remember what age. Maybe it was 3 or 2, or I don't know what age it was. Maybe it was 2. And then I was reading a book. She thought, but then she realized, because it was a book on tape, which was a thing back then. If I'll remember books on tape. And apparently I had memorized the book, so I kind of knew it, but I wasn't actually reading it. But she thought I was reading it, even though I had never learned to read.
You just had just memorized the book. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I had to be on the toilet while doing it as well. Obviously it was a good session on the toilet. I don't know.
It's a good 1-2 combo, a book on the toilet. Yeah. We also asked your mom, for the contrary, what was the most challenging trait that you had as a child? What was it for you?
Most challenging trait? I mean, I just getting very easily upset about things. I don't know that I was the strongest, toughest child in terms of playing sports or whatever. I was pretty I wasn't the biggest go-getter at that time. So maybe that, I don't know.
So you were you had big feelings.
Kind of soft, yeah. I don't know if it's a big feeling. It's just not very hardcore. Just kind of maybe cry easily or get sad a little bit more easily. I don't know, something like that.
That could be a really wonderful quality. Let's hear what she said.
Joel had an incredibly weak stomach, believe it or not, growing up. And when he first talked about the idea of becoming a doctor, it was are you sure? If Joel saw someone throw up, that would get him to throw up.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
he had an incredible gag reflex. After feeding, he would have quite projectile throw ups.
Maybe you also were acid reflux baby.
I was, but I remember that because I had a really weak stomach and even blood like made me really queasy. So
Yeah. So
I
wait,
think
how did you become a doctor? Like that's the reason why I always said that I can't be a doctor, mom and dad, was because like I see a drop of blood and I'm just like I'm gonna faint, kind of thing. So how did you overcome that stuff?
I think the blood stuff wasn't such a big issue as I got older. The
Yeah.
stomach just got better, so I think I would just like kind of grew out of it. But for sure when I was younger, so that's a good answer. I was thinking more in the mental space on that question. So
Right.
I could imagine how you're having this conversation with yourself, especially when you're younger, of like how you need to toughen up. But I also wonder, like, how would you deal with that now if your child had this, as you said, softer side and was so tough?
yeah, I mean, I think it's just putting them in situations, within reason that kind of expand their horizons and get them to be exposed to situations where something might be a little bit tougher and they have to work through it. I mean, obviously, you have to know your child and know what's a good, just above whatever they can do, so that way they can kind of achieve those goals and kind of work towards it. And I think
Right.
a little frustration is actually good, but at the same time, it's also important to be able to tough through some things and keep working and not necessarily quit on something just because it's harder. So I think it's important that you balance those two things out.
Just curious, like, how is your relationship with your mom now?
It's great. I mean, I wish I could see her more. She lives in Toronto. I live in Los Angeles. But other than that, I mean, I think it's really great. We still speak every week. She's online with us and my child, the older one, pretty frequently. So we're always chatting and discussing things. So it's still a very good relationship. It's just I don't get to see her as much, obviously, since I live in a different place.
What would you say is the hardest thing about your relationship with your mom?
I think it's being apart. So that is the hardest thing. I mean, I wish she was here more on a daily basis, or I was there more on a daily basis. I think for her, it's really tough to see our kids growing up on through a screen.
Yes.
And she's
Mm.
trying to come out more, and she is, but there's only so much that you can travel, I guess. And she's also really very helpful for my sister too. So if she's not there, if she's here, then she's not there. So it's kind of a balance between the two. But I do think she's prioritizing a little bit more to come here, a little bit more, which is good.
Okay, let's hear what she said.
I think the hardest thing is that he moved away. I asked him this question actually not too long ago because his sister lives here and I spend a lot of time with her and my two grandchildren here. And so I asked him, does it upset him in any way, the amount of time that I spend here with my grandchildren versus being there? And typical of Joel to say, Mom, I made the decision to move away, not you.
What do you think surprised your mom most about the path that you're currently on?
Congratulations, you got a gold star.
Oh,
on that
and
last one.
congratulations. You get every single gold star possible. You are crushing this game.
Thank you. I guess my queasy stomach apparently she already answered. I don't know. But so what surprised her most
about the path that you're currently on? I mean, yeah, I guess she didn't expect you to become a doctor. So
I think just being, living somewhere else, working in this field and trying to help other people. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if she ever thought about medicine or health. It wasn't something that was really a part of her family or her parents or anything that like.
How did it come up for you?
The easier thing was to choose to work with kids. I like science. That's what made me go to medicine. But I always love working with kids. I coached my brother in a lot of sports, in hockey, baseball, and then I worked in day camps and summer camps. So I always loved working with kids and helping kids thrive. And I never really loved working with adults. Kids listen, kids get better, and so that to me was where I was going to go. So it was to be in pediatrics always. But I don't know. It was probably around high school time.
Cool. Let's hear what she said.
I think he always knew that he wanted to be doing something with kids. He started as a counselor, and then he did a lot of coaching. And so it didn't surprise me.
You
when
guys
he
are
said
like
that
word
he
for word.
Yeah,
a pediatrician.
That's amazing. You guys are ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you guys didn't cheat? You sure?
We did not cheat.
So that actually was the answer to a different question we asked, which is, what did he always know what he wanted to do when he grew up? we did also ask, what surprised you the most about the path he's currently on. And I think that there's a cool answer to this. So let's hear that too.
The path that he's taking on the integrative side. I think that is what has surprised me the most, because as a family, all of the sugary treats, all the processed food. We actually had a conversation once where I said to him, I feel so bad. I feel so guilty, And he had a great line. He said to me, Mom, it wasn't as common or prevalent now. And I think that's a wonderful thing that's happening now in the world. They've transformed me. He's transformed me into trying to get organic when I can. I eat next to no processed food, looking at the labels.
How does that feel? Like you're not just helping your kids, you're not just helping my kids or all the kids of your patients, but you're also transforming your mom to be healthier.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, the thing that I find maybe that's most helpful is I did not grow up in a crunchy world or doing any of this. So I think it's more relatable for most people because the vast majority of us are not like woo-woo living in the mountains somewhere. Right. We're just living in a city and we want to be healthier. We want to have healthy kids. And that's the same thing for me. And so I think that just talking about this stuff and bringing it up in a common sense way is really helpful for all of us. Because I ate fast food when I was younger. We went to sports. That was what was available. I mean, we ate.
I ate 1,000 boxes of Lucky Charms growing up, probably.
Right, and we did. But I think that there's a few things. Number one, I think that the food back then was not nearly as bad as it is now. A lot of things were actual food back then. They still might have been processed, but they were real food. We didn't eat as much of it, and we weren't exposed to as many chemicals and toxins as we are now. And also, I mean, a lot of us do have conditions, and maybe we don't think about it in that way. But if you look at the adult population, most people have some chronic conditions as well. And so maybe we were like, oh, I ate that and I was fine. But maybe your eczema, maybe your allergies, maybe your stomach issues are from that. Maybe my stomach issues when I was little that she's making fun of. Maybe it's because of that. I don't know, right? Like maybe, right?
Right. No, totally. Right. I was like, oh, I was always a colicky kid because I had stomach stuff, throughout my whole life. And you just sort of absorb it. You're just like, oh no, that's just kind of me. And that's what it is. And you're like not thinking, oh no, it's probably the thousands of boxes of Lucky Charms. You just don't.
Yeah, maybe. Right. I mean, why not? Our bodies are amazing. We can handle a lot and we don't recognize this stuff. But if you do start to eat a little bit healthier, that's when you recognize it. Because if you go back to something which you used to eat and you're like, oh yeah, I'll just have this one chocolate bar, whatever. I used to love it. And then you eat and you're like, oh my God, I feel horrible. Yeah. You don't realize how bad you feel a lot of times until you get away from it and then you go back to it. It's amazing. And and our bodies are magical, but we're just doing too much. I mean, our bodies can't handle where we are right now, I think.
It's this interesting line too of wanting to do the best for your kids, knowing that sometimes you need shortcuts and you need to give them something processed because you got to fill in a lunchbox and you need something on the go or whatever, and feeling guilty.
Or like all the other kids are eating this at this birthday party, and like, so we're going to be the one parent that's like, nope, you're not eating the confetti cake. So it becomes this like public thing, and like then all the kids go up to him and be like, you can't eat this cake. You got to
like zig and zag, right? Like sometimes you allow it and sometimes you don't, and figuring out what your balance is. But like in terms of us as parents, like, of course we always want to do the right thing. It just doesn't always happen that way. Like there are times where my kid will not eat anything. Like Sandeep's kid, and probably much due to his wife being a very nutrition-driven person and an incredible cook and a planner, will eat anything. Well, maybe not anything, but eat such a variety of food, bell peppers and mushrooms and steak and all these things. And and my kid is so picky. And so oftentimes it is chicken nuggets, and I can sometimes get some broccoli, and sometimes I can pick the healthier version of the mac and cheese. But like, what do you say to parents who are doing the best they can and feel guilty?
Well, the key is to try to not feel so guilty. We have to get rid of that shame of feeling guilty for this stuff. There's no perfect way to do anything. And to me, the goal is just to do the best that you can and always try to keep doing a little bit better, a little bit more, whatever is reasonable for you, for your family. Just try to keep moving the needle forward. And that might mean cooking one more meal a week, or it might mean reading some labels and picking the healthier version of a snack. It doesn't mean you have to go from broccoli to from chips to broccoli. You can pick 2 bags of chips, look at the ingredients, find the better one, and give your kids that. And every little decision adds up. And that is the way that I try to empower parents to kind of move forward, because you maybe did something different in the past and something new now. That's fine. So then you do it differently in the future moving forward. Maybe you didn't know about a chemical and now you do, so you try to avoid that thing. Maybe you want to do a little bit more, so you include a little bit more about health, more movement, more cooking at home, whatever it is. Just keep moving the needle forward, because our bodies are amazing. They can handle most things, but we're just getting to the point where it's too much, and every little bit helps. And we really can move that needle. And you mentioned kale, and it's like, it's funny because we think of these things as like woo woo out there stuff, but sometimes it's just about the way that things are prepared, or the things that you're offering. I mean, a great funny story from my dad. He came and my wife gave him the kale chips from Air One. I don't know if you ever had those, but they're like really good. Like, they taste really good. He ate that.
They're super nacho-y.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, if we had these at home, then I would eat this all the time. Like, this is great, And it's not always that we won't eat healthy things. It's that sometimes you have to know how to prepare it or get the right version of it.
My little dude will only eat, I said kale kind of jokingly, but he eats it when it's like cooked in this like coconut thing. It's like coconut kale or whatever. So he likes that. So it's like, yeah, you're right. It's how you prepare it, how you present it, how you bring it into your life that I think makes a difference too. It's funny because you're talking about guilt, but even your mom was talking about the guilt that she feels about, like, now knowing what she knows, and how she raised us. And I'm sure a lot of our parents' generations feel that way when they allow themselves to, I guess. Because sometimes my parents are like, what are you doing? Just do it our way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing to try to just get rid of the guilt, or at least quiet that voice. And like you say, just do the next best thing you can going forward. Well, I think this leads really well into this question we asked your mom about, just what makes a good parent? What's like sort of the best quality for a parent? What do you think she said?
I think the best quality for a parent is being there and loving your kids and caring. I mean, I don't think there's anything specific to being a great parent other than love and being together.
See what she said.
The best quality for a parent, I think, is that your child knows that you are there for them no matter what. From Joel and with all the children, I would say to them, I'd rather hear it from you than from somebody else. I don't care how bad it is. We'll deal with it. The kids, as they got older, would say to me, you think we told you everything? And I would go, no, of course you didn't. But there's nothing you could do that would make me think any less of you.
You guys like share a brain, I guess, huh? Like, it's like you just have
maybe
the
we're
same...
related. I don't know.
I'm just telling you, it's not. We do this a lot. This is now like I don't know what episode we're on right now, but like not usually this in sync. All right, so it's pretty awesome.
Here's going back to the guilt question and kind of thinking about your mom's parenting perspective. What regrets do you think your mom has as a parent?
I know that some things from her childhood really affected her, and I would say that her regrets would be around maybe not handling those earlier in her life, or dealing with those earlier. So maybe some of that stuff came up as she was a parent. I mean, she's definitely dealing and has gone through some of that stuff more now. I mean, she mentioned it first thing here, we went straight to the happy place, I guess, from the first couple things that she was saying. But I don't know, but I would guess that it's like, just, I don't know, just trying to minimize any of the issues that my parents had with each other, that maybe things were brought in from their personal lives from before that might have affected the family and me and my siblings in any way, as we were getting older.
Yeah, let's hear what she has to say.
As the years went on, life at home got pretty difficult. Joel's dad and myself are divorced. He had already moved away when things were at its worst. I wish I had learned a little bit more about myself to be able to help them going on in their life now. I look at therapy as a gift. The generational behaviors that our parents pass along to us, it was something huge that I had learned in terms of, understanding my mom and my dad. And then the other part of it is, in marriage, you now have two families, okay, that you're bringing together all of those generational behaviors. And the key thing that I guess I've learned is that we all have a choice. I'm somebody who tries to look at and live in the positive world.
Yeah, we kind of touched upon, you know, how, and that's what the show ends up being about a lot, is like how we pass things on, where we get them from, what we decide to, like, what enters our garden plot, and what we decide to view as the flowers, and what we decide to view as the weeds. And if we do the work in weeding it ourselves, knowing that they may sprout again, but we got to keep weeding so that we pass on like a better garden to our children.
What a beautiful metaphor, Sandeep.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I got that from our friend Adam Catino. So shout out to you.
Lovely.
Shout out to Adam for that, because that always stuck in my head as it makes me feel very active in both the exploration of, you know, what's being passed on to me, and in the doing something about it. And then thinking about, yeah, exactly what I'm passing on. How much of that do you integrate? Like, because I mean, obviously, it sounds like to me that your mom is doing the work, you're doing the work. How much do you, as a doctor, also sort of try to inspire other parents to do this kind of work? You know, is there much therapizing that goes on in your practice, or do you keep that sort of subtle? Like, what's your approach?
I mean, I think it is, you know, not therapy to the level of a therapist, but
sure.
I mean, a lot of parents just want to chat about stuff, you know, and it's not, you do realize for sure as a pediatrician very early on that a lot of what you do is not medicine. It's parenting, or, you know, discussions about therapy. Like basically, like, you know what I mean? Like it's not, not coughs and colds. I mean, you certainly obviously do that, but a lot of it is about development. A lot of it is about managing and helping parents to decrease their fears and their worries. And, you know, 99, I mean, I make this joke in the book, right? It's like, I don't even need to be here most of the time. I could just have somebody in front of the office holding a sign saying that it's normal, it's fine.
Totally.
And, you know, then like,
yeah,
know,
we did that many times with you. We're like, right. It's fine.
It's fine. It's normal. But that's your job. I mean, your job is really to pick out that like one time every now and again where it's not normal. Right. But most fears that parents have are normal. I mean, out of the 1,000 texts that I get, you know, maybe one needs something more. But we, as our own kids, you know, we always have a different level of fears and concerns, and that's fine. I mean, that's what we're here for. But that's kind of therapy, right? It's like, in a way, it's just trying to be like, okay, well, I know this is fine, but I just want to check. Oh, we're going away on vacation. I just want to make sure their ears are okay. But did their ears hurt? No. Okay, but I just want to make sure. It's like, okay, well, like, you know, like, I'm just here to make you feel better, right? And like, let you know you're good. But that's a lot of what we do. So you could call it therapy, call it whatever you want. But yeah, that's a lot of what we do.
How does it feel to hear, though, your mom talk about sort of this generational, you know, stuff, the generational behaviors, and sort of her retrospection on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that this has come up now as opposed to, you know, 30, 40 years ago, but I think there's never too late for anything. And it makes me really happy that she has gotten into a much better place. I know that for sure, just, you know, being around and being here, and how much happier she seems and more engaged that she does seem. And that I think is empowering, that, you know, no matter where you are in your life, there's always room to move in a more positive direction. And if there are things you want to work on them. And, you know, we talked about a lot of things that have stigma, but therapy absolutely is something that has stigma. But there's nothing better than, for most people that I've found, if they find a good therapist that can be really helpful for them if they have certain things that they want to work through. Sometimes it involves doing a little bit of work to work on yourself. And too many people prioritize everybody else. Parents are the worst at that, right? I mean, we're notoriously like, we put our kids first, and that's great. I mean, you should do that most of the time, but you also can't forget about yourself. And we do that always. And so many parents do that. They kind of take themselves out of the equation. And we forget that the most important thing that you can do for your kids is to be a present, loving parent. And sometimes that means taking care of yourself first. And I hope that empowers people to do some of the work for themselves, because that does ultimately help their kids.
Well, that brings us to our next question. What's one thing that your mom has never asked you, but you think she might want to?
Am I okay or happy? She doesn't really say. I don't know.
That one comes up a lot. I wonder. It's like
That's such a good question.
So interesting. Why? So it just makes me go like, I feel like I should ask my son that all the time.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear what she said.
How does he truly feel about me as his mom? What does he feel that I instilled or contributed to who he is today?
Yeah, she's a good mom.
What do you feel like she instilled or contributed?
I mean, I think a sense of compassion and caring about others, making sure that we have a strong connection between siblings, and you know, understanding how important that is, and also just understanding how important family is. Like, I know that she went through losing her dad early, but I think that to a, you know, and if there's a positive to it, it's like an understanding that time can be finite, and having an understanding that that was something that really bothered her. So then it's something that's important for us to remember to care about each other, and never, you never know when you know, when your time is going to end, I guess. And so you have to make everything that you can of today.
How did your mom do that? How, like, you know, just for the parents who are listening who want to figure out how to do this whole thing better, which is kind of the point of our podcast. How did your mom work to strengthen your sense of compassion, A, and B, your relationship with your siblings?
One is modeling. I mean, I think modeling is really important in terms of, you know, acting what you preach, and also just talking about it. I mean, something that she always said was that our relationship with our siblings is the most important thing to her, and she wants to always have that. So it's something that she repeated over and over again. And I think that, you know, kind of sticks when your parents instill in you that bond is more important than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. If I may, it's like I feel like she obviously that's losing your dad at a young age, traumatic experience, but she was able to turn it into this thing where she really reflected intentionally upon how she's going to be a parent, you know, because of that in so many ways, and then like created this, you know, wanted to protect your childhood when you were younger, and then was able to sort of you know, create this synergy between you and your siblings by, you know, modeling this behavior like you talked about, or doing that thing where you know, where you just say, oh, you're such a good big brother, you know, you're such a good, like, whether that's true or not, you just kind of keep saying it enough, and then the kid's like, yeah, you know what, I am a good big brother. Just seems like she made so many great moves that she created a sense of safety, and an attachment and a relationship where you guys could kind of talk about anything, and you can feel safe doing that. And then it thus sprouted this human being who goes into integrative medicine, facing some headwinds, you know, and a lot of controversy around this very sensitive topic. But you do it so fearlessly to the point that you have 250,000 followers on Instagram or whatever it is. And, you know, you're advocating for others in such a fearless, brave way. And I just feel like that it's the little things you do as a parent that can make such a difference into who comes out the other side.
And I think it's such a good point, because one of the things that I, you know, never really thought about, but for sure was true, was I always felt comfortable saying anything. That was, I was never worried about, you know, getting in trouble or whatever. And I think that kind of allowing us to have discussions, allowing discussions to happen, and being open to all the things out there, and being like a receptive, open-minded person, because I wasn't afraid of anything. I think that has really bled into my career now in my life, because you know, why is medicine the way that it is, and why am I different? I've been asked that before, and I think it is the open-mindedness that really makes a difference, because it wasn't something even on my radar, integrative medicine 30 years ago, right? That wasn't a word that was in my mind, but it's something that has kind of molded into my life, because I think it's really interesting, because I think it's needed, because it's something that makes sense to me. But you have to be open-minded to do that,
because you feel safe asking the hard questions.
That comes from my parents, for sure. Like, you have to feel safe to do that.
Well, look, you're doing great. So we're going to jump into lightning round. Just going to ask you some quick questions to close this thing out. I mean, thank you so much for spending your time with us. It's been wonderful. But now it's time to put your feet in the fire here.
What is your favorite animal?
My favorite animal? A lion.
Lion.
Wow, there's no way my mom would know what mine is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say no way. What we asked, what was your favorite food as a kid growing up?
Chicken Parmesan.
Oh, chicken Parmesan.
Come on.
Crushing. Okay, what are 3 adjectives she would choose to describe you?
Nice, kind, intelligent? I don't know.
Smart, loving, and considerate.
Yeah, I mean that's
I'll
pretty
give
much
you
all
2
3
of them. No, I'm
Okay,
gonna give
fine.
you 2.
It's like 1.5.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Favorite subject in school? Does gym count? Am I allowed to say?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Jim.
No, I guess it does count.
This is insane. So far you're like basically 4 for 4 in the lightning round, which I think has never happened.
Never happened. Okay, if you could have a conversation with anybody, living or dead, who would you choose?
Oh, well, now it would be Joe Rogan.
Okay, grandfathers, because he never met my father, and he's named after my
Okay, that's a
father.
good answer.
And he knows how special my father was to me. So I'm going to say grandfathers.
That's fair.
Your grandfather's or Joe Rogan, which
You gotta pick. No, and you know what? I do think he'd be a trip to talk to. So I
would
get
listen
it.
to that episode. All right, we asked what was your pet name growing up?
I don't know if I had one like Warshy, but not really. That's more my brother.
Jolie.
Jolie. The first one you got wrong.
What's the best gift you ever got your mom?
Whew, the best gift I ever got my mom. The heart necklace, I think. She really likes she loves hearts, so I think it was the heart necklace at some point.
The frames, the ones that you can load pictures to it.
Oh, that's cute.
She's wowed by the technology of the loading. Yeah, yep.
That is a great. Those are pretty
solid.
cool.
Solid gift. Can't go wrong.
Okay.
What was your biggest irrational fear? What is your biggest irrational fear?
Irrational fear? Heights?
Candles.
Well,
you're
fire.
afraid of candles? Oh, fire.
No, not candles so much as like holding candles fire. I was afraid of that. That is an irrational fear back then. Yeah.
Got it.
Wild. And what was your first word?
I have no idea.
Pat. Okay. Pat.
I remember a phrase, "Make way for the highway."
I didn't even know that I ever said that. So
in your whole life, never.
Well, I would have said it my whole life, but yeah, I don't know that at all.
Well, listen, make way for the highway, I think is a great slogan to go out on. Dr. Joel, you did wonderfully. Okay, you got 4, 8, 10. You got 15 gold stars, which is, this is huge.
Putting everyone to shame.
Yeah, truly. You're definitely in the top 1%, I think, of our interviews. So congratulations on that. You and your mom obviously have a hive mind, shared brain connection here. Absolutely wild. But thank you so much for taking the time out with us. This is wonderful.
Yeah. And don't forget to make way for the highway.
Thank you for having me on.
And the book is Parenting at Your Child's Pace, the Integrative Pediatrician's Guide to the First 3 Years. You can grab that on Amazon or wherever books are sold, which I think is just Amazon now. And the Parenting Masterclass platform is Raising Amazing, which is you can find it at raisingamazingplus.com.
Thank you guys for doing this. It's really cool. It's super unique. I've done a bunch of interviews, but nothing like this. This is way more fun. So thank you.
We're so honored to have you. Thank you so much.
Hi, hon.
Hi. I'm doing my interview right now for Your Mom is a Podcast, and I'm calling to let you know that we did horribly terrible. We pretty much got nothing. Nothing the same. So I hope that you probably shouldn't listen to it. You're gonna be pretty embarrassed, but that's okay.
Oh no, I felt so bad. It's been bothering me ever since.
You did great. Don't worry. There's nothing to be worried of.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
I didn't want to embarrass you, and I felt so bad after.
You cannot embarrass me. Well, I mean, you probably could, but you didn't, so it's okay.
I could. It was my first podcast experience, and I afterwards thought, I could have done this differently.
You will learn as you do podcasts that you feel like you do poorly, and then you listen, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Okay.
All right. Well, I will let you go. Thank you for doing this.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. I'm very sure. I mean, you might be embarrassed about hearing this part of it now, but other than that, the rest of it was great.
Are you recording?
I said we're on right now. You're on with them. Did y'all hear them?
Oh, God.
That's going to be the best clip that there was. I hope you guys can hear it. I guess you can.
Can we redo this, please?
No. All right. I'll talk to you later. I love you. Bye.
88% of the work week is spent communicating, so it's important your team does it well. Enter Grammarly. Grammarly's AI helps teams communicate clearly the first time. It shows you how to make words resonate with your audience, helps with brainstorming, and lets you instantly create and revise drafts in just one click. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who use Grammarly to move work forward. Go to grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly. Enterprise-ready AI.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.